There's been a ruling from Judge Tanya Chutkan in the D.C. election interference case involving January 6th. Judge Chutkan has ruled on some discovery motions that Donald Trump was asking for, Donald Trump and his team, and mostly she sided with Jack Smith on this and said, those are not relevant. There were a couple things that she said Jack Smith should try to produce or does have to produce. Now, what was not relevant? Well, first of all, Donald Trump was asking for any sort of information about security around the Capitol on January 6th and what security measures were put in place, etc. Were there any undercover FBI agents working in the mob? All of that. And she said, that's not relevant. You don't get access to that because, if they were security measures aren't part of what was going on here. You still got the mob going. You can't say that, because there was a mob that did this, just because there wasn't enough security, that you can't say that's not a good enough defense, basically. So you're not entitled to those. And then he wanted access to the 2016 Mueller report or the Mueller investigation and all of that information stemming from the Russia investigation about whether or not Russia tried to infiltrate and help and interfere with the 2016 election, as well as any information regarding Russia in 2020. And Judge Tanya Chutkan said those things are also not relevant to this case because just because you both were working to try to undermine the credibility of elections does not, and we're going toward the same goal, does not take away from what you were doing. The analogy I would use for this is saying if you get caught speeding going down the road, but 3 other cars were keeping pace with you and you're the one that gets lit up, you can't ask for those cars to also be, called in and information about those cars and why they weren't ticketed. Because it doesn't matter that they were also speeding. You were speeding when you got the ticket. So those were some of the things that she said he's not entitled to. But what did she say he could have? Well, she told Jack Smith and his team to look one more time. Jack Smith says these things do not exist. But to look again as far as any possible record of any communication with Mike Pence before he sat for a deposition that involved him testifying in the deposition in exchange for the case involving Mike Pence having the classified documents going away. If there was any sort of negotiation there or anything, if it was even mentioned briefly, if there's a record of it, Jack Smith has to produce it. Jack Smith said it doesn't exist. So they're going to look again for that. The other things that need to be produced involve some details that Mike Pence was made aware of for security before January 6th and some information that somebody else in the investigation was able to review before giving their testimony. And those things need to be produced. Otherwise, this is a loss for Donald Trump. He does not get to go fishing through all sorts of documents. And I think that's how Judge Tanya Chutkan is going to approach this case. She wants to keep moving forward. She's not going to let him just request anything and everything to get it because there might be something. They need to be able to prove why they need these documents and what they think is actually in there with some amount of credibility. We need to look at them first so we can see if there is anything. She's not going to allow the dog and pony show, and she's going to keep things moving. And that's what we need in this case.